It started with a trip for my brother's graduation. A simple stay in an Airbnb that seemed perfectly normal, almost idyllic. The house had a quaint, welcoming vibe, a place you'd picture in a travel brochure. Everything felt right, everything was in its place until I made the mistake of going into the basement. The moment my feet made contact with the cold concrete floor, an overwhelming wave of dread washed over me, so thick and palpable it felt like a physical force. It wasn't just a fleeting feeling of being creeped out, it was a profound sense of wrongness and instinctual alarm bells screaming inside my head. My girlfriend, who was usually the braver one, took one look down the shadowy stairs and flat out refused to go down there, let alone by herself. That should have been our first major red flag, a sign to just pack our bags and leave. That night, the house began to reveal its true, unsettling nature. The first strange occurrence was the washer. It was an old top loader in the basement, and it started buzzing loudly at the most impossible hours. We hadn't put any clothes in it, we hadn't touched the dials. Yet it would sporadically roar to life, the sound echoing up through the floorboards at 2, then 3 in the morning. Just as we would drift back to sleep, another sound joined the chorus. The fan in the attic, directly above our bedroom, suddenly switched on by itself. It wasn't a gentle whirring. It was a violent, erratic spinning. The blades were unbalanced, and it began slamming against its own ceiling mount with a rhythmic, deafening thud, dash, thud, dash, thud. It sounded exactly like someone was up there, trapped and furiously trying to break free. Then came the most terrifying sound of all, a sharp, metallic banging that would echo from the darkness of the basement stairs. It only ever happened when our backs were turned. We'd be in the kitchen making coffee, and suddenly bang, bang. We'd whip around, and there was nothing but silence and the gaping black maw of the stairway. Paranoia set in quickly. We went through the entire house, locking every single door, checking every window, trying to create a fortress against whatever was sharing the space with us. But locking the doors did nothing to keep the feeling out. In fact, it seemed to intensify it, trapping the oppressive atmosphere inside with us. The sense of being watched was constant, a heavy weight on our shoulders. As the sun began to rise, a strange compulsion took hold of me. Something was pulling me back toward the basement, an inexplicable magnetic draw, as if the house itself wanted me down there, needed me to go back to where it all started. I stood at the top of the stairs, my hand on the doorknob, fighting against an urge that wasn't my own. The air felt thick, charged with a malevolent energy that was focused entirely on that dark subterranean space. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff with a phantom wind pushing me from behind. We couldn't take it anymore. We packed our bags in a frantic rush, throwing our clothes and toiletries into suitcases without care, our only goal to escape the house as fast as humanly possible. As we were about to walk out the front door for the last time, the house gave us its final, chilling farewell. The washer in the basement buzzed to life one last time. It droned a sinister hum that vibrated through the entire structure. Simultaneously, the attic fan roared on again, not just starting, but immediately spinning at full, violent speed. The slamming against the ceiling mount was faster and louder than ever before, a furious, desperate tantrum from the entity we were leaving behind. It was the house's final, desperate attempt to hold us, to scare us, to make its presence undeniably known. We didn't hesitate. We bolted out of the house, scrambling into the car without a single backward glance. I have never left an Airbnb that fast in my entire life, and I swear I will never book a place with a basement again. The October, my partner and I decided to rent a secluded farmhouse. We were chasing tranquility, a picturesque escape from the city's relentless pace. Surrounded by acres of rolling hills and ancient trees, the house was everything we dreamed of. During the day, sunlight streamed through the old wavy glass of the windows, filling the rooms with a warm golden glow. It was cozy, a perfect little haven where the loudest sound was the wind whispering through the fields. But when night fell, draping the countryside in an impenetrable blanket of darkness, the farmhouse transformed. The cozy silence was replaced by a heavy, expectant stillness. The very air seemed to thicken, and the house, which felt so welcoming in the light, now felt unnervingly alive. It began subtly with noises we tried to dismiss as the quirks of an old building settling. The soft creak of floorboards in the hallway when we were both tucked into bed. The faint sound of footsteps on the gravel path outside our window. Pacing back and forth, though we knew we were miles from the nearest neighbor. Lights in the downstairs living room would flicker and dim, behaving as if on a faulty circuit, only to steady themselves the moment we went to investigate. Then came the shadows. In the periphery of our vision, we'd catch fleeting movements, dark shapes that darted across doorways or loomed in the corners of rooms. Shapes that had no source and didn't belong. The feeling of being watched became a constant, unwelcome companion. One evening, as I lay in bed, feigning sleep, a cold spot formed in the far corner of our bedroom. My eyes snapped open, and that's when I saw her. A tall, slender figure stood there, partially obscured by the gloom, a woman made of deeper shadow. She was just watching us, her presence radiating an immense, silent sorrow. I blinked, my heart hammering against my ribs, and she was gone, vanishing as if she were never there. After that night, the activity escalated. It was no longer confined to the periphery. It was direct and undeniable. Objects began to move on their own. A small porcelain music box we admired on the mantelpiece was found on the floor in the center of the room. Its lid open, as if it had just finished playing a tune we hadn't heard. The air would suddenly grow frigid, temperatures plummeting so drastically our breath would fog in front of us, only to return to normal moments later without any logical explanation. The feeling of being observed intensified, a palpable pressure against our skin. No matter where we were in the house, the kitchen, the living room, even the bathroom, we could feel unseen eyes following our every move. It was a constant, unnerving presence that gnawed at our sanity. We were no longer guests in the farmhouse. We were intruders in its space. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. The fear had curdled into a desperate need for answers. Standing in the middle of the living room, the epicenter of the cold spots, I spoke into the darkness, my voice trembling. "What do you want?" I asked. "Why are you here?" For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, the air before me began to shimmer and coalesce. A fine silvery mist swirled and thickened, slowly taking the shape of a woman. It was her, the figure from our bedroom. Her form was ethereal, her features etched with a profound sadness that seemed to ache through the room. She wasn't menacing, just trapped. A soft, desperate whisper, more felt than heard, echoed in my mind, a single plea for release. Driven by this encounter, my partner and I delved into the history of the property, spending hours in the local town archives. We discovered the tragic story of a woman named Alara who had lived and died in the farmhouse over a century ago, waiting for a lover who never returned. We knew we couldn't just leave her spirit to wander in sorrow. Following the guidance of an old book on local folklore, we found in the town's bookstore. We gathered dried herbs, candles, and a personal item of hers we'd found tucked away in a loose floorboard, a single tarnished silver locket. That evening, we performed a simple, quiet ritual, not of banishment, but of peace. We spoke her name, acknowledged her pain, and asked her to let go of her earthly ties and find her way to rest. As the last candle flame flickered out, a tangible shift occurred. A gentle breeze swept through the house, the oppressive weight lifted, and the air cleared, feeling lighter and warmer than it had since our arrival. The washing sensation was gone. The house was finally truly quiet. Afterward, the farmhouse returned to being the cozy sanctuary we had first fallen in love with. The nights were peaceful, filled only with the natural sounds of the countryside. But as we packed our bags to leave, a thought settled in my mind that has never quite left me. I can't help but wonder how many guests before us had seen the sad, watchful figure of Alara. How many had heard the footsteps, felt the cold, and dismissed the feeling of being watched. And how many of them didn't understand that the strange occurrences were just the quirks of an old house, but the desperate warning signs of a spirit in need of help.